too. What worries me, though, about this whole debate is that the fact remains we have a system whereby these video games should be properly censored. They've got 18 certificate. What worried me about your comment was there was material on there that should not have got past the censor. And frankly, it should probably have been cut out, and particularly the airport scene, because quite clearly that is causing distress to adults who are watching it, and maybe the censor should have dealt with it properly. And we are saying today that is unacceptable.
Well, if they say of they say of that particular airport scene that it's designed, this the makers say, designed to evoke the atrocities of terrorism. That's rubbish, isn't it?
Well, it certainly does it in the same way that in 24 and Die Hard 2 there's terrorist strikes on airports. It is a distressing scene, and the BBFC saw fit to grant an 18 certificate. If they hadn't, I'd be here championing the BBFC's decision.
There's a sort of spurious portrayal of it, that the whole thing is a sort of responsible exercise designed to evoke the atrocities of terrorism, like sort of bringing some new knowledge to the public arena.
Surely it puts the
Alex Goldberg.
Surely it puts the gamer in the position of being a terrorist. The whole plot here is it's a military commander, whatever, who doesn't want to blow his cover, so he blows up innocent civilians. And we're asking gamers to be put in that situation. Now, we've fudged this issue about children time and time again throughout this debate. Let's face it, it's children playing this game. Whilst we talk about the Holy Scriptures, when Cain kills Abel, God asks him one question: are you your brother's keeper? The rest of the Bible is an answer to that, and it's a big yes. When I play this game, I don't get that answer. I get upset.
Simon. Yeah, you're here for our adoption debate, but join us on this, because you work with young people, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. My job is working with young people. And without a shadow of a doubt, I've witnessed on many times when we've had a group of young people, they've been playing a violent video game or they've been watching some movie, we end club and they're out on the street hyper, beating each other, tackling each other, running around the place. And on one occasion we actually spent a night in Casualty with a young man, because they'd been playing this violent boxing game. Then they thought it'd be a brilliant idea, let's go out and let's role-play that, but let's role-play it for real. And he got a very serious concussion.
Well, it does kind of stand to reason. People used to say you watch the old John Wayne films, and they'd come out the cinema kind of walking like this. You know, there is a psychological
That was the old cinema
effect.
seats, Nicky.
Yeah. Go on.
You're talking about violence, but also there are other computer games that degrade women. There's a big name that I won't mention, but there's also that effect, not just the violence.
And along there, what would you like to say?
Well, millions of people play computer games. Say someone does kill someone, you have to judge that against the millions of people's enjoyment. If you want to ban cars, you'll save hundreds of lives, or ban football. You're certainly not going to have football hooliganism if you get rid of football. And I've seen plenty of people get very stressed out, even watching the game.
It's the price of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you, sir?
I think if you're going to start banning games for being violent, you might as well just ban like horror films as well, because there's no point in them at all.
But no, here's the question of simply, banning video games. Nobody's suggesting that. That's just crazy. What we're actually saying here that this scene in this particular game is unacceptable and should have been dealt with by our system, and maybe it hasn't been done properly.
What's the difference in terms of sin in watching, I don't know, pornography online and watching that from watching the sort of thing that you engage in, which is pretend violence online? Is there a difference? If you're indulging in a fantasy world in either of those two cases, is there a moral difference?
I think actually if you are in that role, which is you're taking on the role of a terrorist in a game, killing other people with massive violence coming back at you on the screen, and somehow some people will get the thrill of that, I think that's actually sick, and we need to sort that out. And I don't think it should be in a game, because gaming, for me, is actually not about that sort of process. You do, obviously, in any sort of game, where you're talking about...
Is it not a thought sin, though?
I mean, when I was quite young, they were worried about horror comics, because horror comics were going to pollute the minds of young people and make them violent. Actually, this is very different from that. This is actually taking on the role of a terrorist and actually killing and murdering people in a way which relates to the news and what we see on our screens. And that is fundamentally different. And it somehow says, maybe this is all right. It isn't.
Oh, yeah, go on.
I just think that the video games we're talking about are symptomatic. They may throw one or two people over the edge, but you talked about terrorism. And, of course, we reflect a violent society where we killed 1 million people in Iraq. That is the, if you like,
I agree with you, but should we take on the role in a game? It is a game of actually a terrorist. That's slightly sick to me.
OK, listen, thank you all very much. We're going to leave it right there and ask you to contribute as well. And you were just desperate to come in, but I'm sure